Hello, FlossTube. I'm Elizabeth Martinez, Fantastitches, and this is my FlossTube update number 49. Uh, all of a sudden my brain went dead. I don't know what I was going to say. I don't know. Welcome back to my subscribers, and welcome to anybody who might have found me by accident or on purpose. I don't know. For those who are coming here for the first time, welcome. I made myself some notes just because I kind of have a lot to talk about, I guess. First of all, the most important thing being that I have another finish. I actually finished this probably just after I did my update last week. The little penguin that I was working on, the festive penguin by Helt's Couple. I don't know if I can say this name. Helt's Couple Ditch, which is, I don't want to make fun of this person's name, but it kind of sounds like a made up name, doesn't it? But Helt's Couple Ditch, apparently, I think, designs a lot of things for this for Cross Stitch Crazy magazine. I see that name in that magazine. Anyway, I finished the little festive penguin. I'm going to hold it up here closer. I did all the back stitching. There's some cat hair on there as well. But I did the back stitching. You can see on his tummy and on his body here and around the scarf and his beak. And there's his eye, you can finally see. And his skates. So yeah, I did the back stitching on him. So he's ready to be FFO'd, and I'm not really sure. I did it originally for my aunt. It was originally going to be a Christmas present for her. And I had thought about putting it on like something like a little coin purse or something like that, some kind. And I might still do that. I don't have any immediate FFO plans, ideas necessarily for it. But let me put it over here. But so while I apparently was in a penguin mood, I worked on another one of my Stitch 9 challenge. That was a Stitch 9 challenge piece project, and this little penguin kit that I got not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before that, from my nephew, one of my nephews. This is another cute little penguin. It's adorable. He's so cute. Anyway, I had worked on him at the time. I shortly after I got him, I guess. And this is really, if I can hold this up here, it'll show. Yeah, that's as far as I got. Those two little squares. They're two of the blocks of his from his scarf. Excuse me. Hold. Yeah, just the two little, like, I think the A and this A and M and the A or whatever are these two little blocks. I think is they were right at the center, and so that's where I started. But since then, since last, I think, when did I finish the penguin? The other penguin on Saturday or Sunday or something. So all week I've worked on the other penguin. So I've gotten most of his scarf, all except for the ends of his scarf is what I'm working on right now. But I've done a little bit of this part over here, partly because I'm sort of a color completer, and so I've done, like all of the green. I finished this last green block last night, and the blues. I mean, this blue block last night, and so I've there's a pink and red. I think red. Yeah. Little block and fringe or something like that on the ends here that I have to do. And these little empty squares here are part of where what is going to form the letters. A couple of stitch blocks, and then it'll be eventually some back stitching for the letters. And then more of his scarf. This is part of his pom-pom. So just as I finished the colors here, then I did them up here as well. And there's his face and his little beak. And I haven't done the rest of his body yet. There are some of the colors up here are like repeated in his body, but since they're further down, I didn't want to do as much counting. So this area I'll get to eventually as I go, so that I don't have to count so far, and I'll minimize the chance of errors. But anyway, I'm very pleased. This is going along pretty quickly, all things considered. I just have to do now his body and the lower part of it. I did find some mistakes here, because, like, if you look at his scarf here, the blue in his scarf is the same blues down here. Okay, so the symbol that they use for this light blue, of course, is the same as the symbol here, but with one exception, where like this white here in the letter and in his pom-pom is one symbol. But down here, it's a different symbol because it's only a half stitch, right? And the same thing here, where the dark blue is, up here it's one symbol, and down here it's a different symbol. And the light blue is the same color as up here in the scarf. And so you would think, okay, one symbol for the here because these are X's, and one symbol here because this is half stitch. No, they made a mistake. They used the same symbol here as here, but the instructions clearly list this as a half stitch. So I had to look at it. I thought, well, is this a half stitch? No, it's a full cross. So they just made a minor mistake there. But anyway, all of this snow, all of this white is half stitches, and this blue is also, I believe, all half stitches. And then but I don't know if you can see, there's supposed to be French knots here. But I'm going to do colonial knots, But they're actually done with two strands of floss. So I think I think they're done with two strands of floss, so they'll stick out a little more. But I think this down here is all half stitch. But it's kind of nice because you don't have to do all of the sky or whatever, because it's blue already. So yeah, there's a lot of snow, but it's half stitch, so it should go pretty quickly. But anyway, yeah, that's a Christmas penguin. Second in my penguin series. So that's another Stitch 9 project. So I had said earlier in some of my posts that I felt like I was cheating a little bit because some of my Stitch 9 projects are smaller, but the other ones are bigger, so it all works out in the end. It feels like, oh look, I'm getting all my Stitch 9 projects done, and it's only February. It's only the end of February, but no, I have the big ones left to do, so it's yeah. So, in addition to those, I had a little bit of haul. My older sister, I think I've mentioned before, is an artist, and so she was going to Hobby Lobby to look for some art supply stuff, and she asked me if I wanted to go, and I said sure. And it's always dangerous because, since I don't really have projects in mind, and actually I'm kind of trying not to spend because I'm trying to save some money up, for for Stitch Shenanigans in April. So I'm trying to save a little bit of money, so I'll have, so I can buy things as they arise during the retreat. But since I was at Hobby Lobby, I thought, what the heck, So I did buy a piece of foam core, a big, like, 2 foot by 3 foot sheet of foam core that I can use, hopefully, to finish things. That's one of my weaknesses, and this is my finishing palooza idea. Finishing things. But I have, several projects that are, the stitching is complete, but I have not FFO'd, and they're just languishing, because I'm not much of an FFO'er. It's like other people have talked about, having a box of shame or whatever, where you have, my shirt is messed up, where you have items that, that you stitch that you just, put away without FFOing them. And that's always been my problem, because, the stitching part is easy. It's the FFO part. I'm not all that creative necessarily when it comes to sewing and framing and all of that. And I don't really have money to pay somebody to frame for me. So I have to do that myself. And I think in the past, or with smaller projects, I'm not really a big, huge project person. So I haven't really done much in the way of that kind of framing. But even so, I'm just not, I have to get the mental energy, in line to do that. And I'm sort of less inclined to do that, because it takes more thought and more creativity and more whatever, something that I don't have. But anyway, but I bought the foam core for that. And I also bought just another one of these little organizer boxes. I know I can put it to good use. I have a pretty good DMC collection that's always expanding, because excuse me, because I have, in some cases, I have more than one. I have all my DMC bobbinated, and so in some cases with some colors I have more than one bobbin, and part of it is sometimes I've bought more than one skein for various reasons, but part of it is that I've in the past mixed, kit threads that have DMC numbers with DMC skeins that I bought. And I don't know which is which, and in many cases it doesn't matter. But I have them all, mixed together. So I have more than one bobbin of one color or whatever in some cases. So I kind of want to, and I have several bobbins that are not put back in the box. So I have to expand that a bit. So I bought another box for that, to go through that and put those away. And also because I have a few of these, and I want to, I think, put them in another container other than where they are. But I have some more beads, and I bought some not too long ago. And the idea is like to make, scissor fobs or zipper pulls or something like that with them. And I just haven't done it because, I'm kind of lazy, I guess, when it comes to that. But I keep having brilliant ideas and just not doing them. So I bought some more beads. So these are, I don't know if I can get, these are kind of glary, but they're sort of raccoon looking. They're kind of blue and brown and looking. I don't know if I can get them up close. But I got these just at Hobby Lobby in their bead section. And I got some little charms. They're elephants. Elephants. They're very cute. So I have some specific ideas, more for those. Oops. And then I bought some even weave fabric that they have there. And, they have different colors of Aida cloth, and I'm not an Aida cloth snob. I'm not, but I have a lot of Aida cloth already, and which so I haven't bought any more because I already have a whole ton. Anyway, I've been buying even weave lately because it's easy to buy and easy to use, and you know so anyway, so I had some even weave already, some white even weave, and one of the things I also did recently was I dyed it. This is avocado dyed. I had some avocado skins from making guacamole. Avocado skins and pits. So I haven't ironed this, so it's still wrinkly from, drying. But and this big white spot is where it was sticking up out of the fabric, the dye. I think this was a little, bubbly part that was sticking up. But I had this. It came out very nicely. Very deep, a deep pink. I don't know if it's showing up here because my light is kind of weird. Let me turn off this light. Yeah, that's better. It's not much glare. But so some of what you're seeing that looks like modeling is wrinkly, but yeah, there's some nice little modeling in there. But I had I think 4 avocados. So there was the skin of 4 avocados and the pits of 4 avocados. So it's pretty intense. And I made a smaller, like a maybe 4-quart saucepan where I boiled them, and I boiled the water for about boiled the skins for about 15 minutes, I think, and then I took the skins and pits out, and then poured the water into a like a 4-cup glass, like a Pyrex measuring cup, and then watered up the fabric and stuck it in there. So that's so it dyed pretty intensely, pretty intense color. It's kind of a pinky color. So there was that. So one of the things I did yesterday is that I had gone through. I talked about this last week, that I had gone through my my fabric stash. And so while that was in the dye bath, I was on my computer making a list of all the fabrics that I had gone through. So let me find this again here. Somewhere on here. Oh, maybe it's not on here. I thought I printed it off, but I guess I didn't. But I went through and made a list of all my fabrics, and yeah, here it is. So it's not a whole lot, but it's a list of all my fabrics, and there's a lot of Aida cloth on here, of various counts. But I separated it into Aida and linen and even weave, and a couple of pieces of hardanger that I have, which is like 22 count Aida, but it's in the way it's woven together, and then a couple of other things, odd pieces that I have this pillowcase. I shared it a long time ago, but it's a pillowcase from IKEA, but it's linen, I believe, and it's about 40 count, and it's it's a pillowcase with a zipper kind of thing, like for a throw cushion you would put on your couch, or whatever. It's 20 by 20, and so it's already FFO'd, if you will, but it's fabric that I think you can put a design on. I just didn't have in mind a design worthy of being on a pillow. So, but anyway, so that's listed, and some other things. So, and then I have on here, like, some of them I tea dyed or coffee dyed or whatever. So that's on here as well. And then what size it is. It's a 15 by 18 or whatever. And anyway, so it's so I made a list. And then so this Friday I went through all my charts again, because when I went through them the other day, I did not write down like what size of fabric it calls for, or whatever, or actually the stitch count, more than, because some of them, the models were stitched on even weave or linen or Aida cloth, whatever. And so, but it lists, like, if you use this count, it's this size, and this count is that size. And I started off kind of doing that listing, but then I just started writing down the stitch count of each piece, because then I can calculate the how many inches it's going to be based on, or how many inches of fabric I need based on stitch count. But I can also, I can calculate that myself. So if I just know what the stitch count is of any particular design, then I can pick the appropriate fabric. So I went through all my charts and wrote down the stitch count. So I want to put all this on the computer, so that I know what I have, and all that. So let me look at my list. Sorry. Yeah. So in looking all the stuff up, the fabric and the projects and all that, one of the things that I was doing while I was in the mood to sort of sort through things is, and don't you hate it when your mother's right about things? My mother had always used to say when I was a kid, when you clean, you find treasures. It's not so much that I don't like my mother to be right, but it's kind of, it's one of those things, like, yeah, I know. When you clean, you find treasures, but that's very true. So while I was in the mood to do all that stuff, I solved a mystery, because when you clean, you find treasures. I was actually looking for some tax information, because, since I'm on disability, my taxes are sort of complicated, and this is still relatively new for me. But I had received some tax information, in the mail, and I was trying to make sure that I had everything I needed. So I wanted to look for last year's tax return, so I still have to do my taxes. So I have a blue plastic expanding folder kind of thing that has my previous year's tax returns in it. So I thought last year's was in there, and but it was up on the upper shelf of my closet. So I have two high shelves in my closet. This one is not quite as high as this one. This is where the plastic folder was. And I had to get up on a step stool, which is difficult for me, to reach the envelope. And so I put my hand, there's like a divider between this shelf and this shelf. So I put my hand up against this divider to hold on to it so I could step up on the step stool. And I put my hand on the sticky board that I've been looking for. I've been looking for it since after Christmas, where I thought I had seen it, but I didn't remember taking it out with my FFO stuff that I used at Christmas because I didn't need it. I was making the little pillow things, and I thought, well, maybe I took it out, and like I said, I thought maybe it had gotten gathered up with all the Christmas things we were putting away, and I couldn't find it. I knew I had taken it out from where I had it, and put it somewhere so that it wouldn't get bent or crushed or the corners messed up or anything like that because of the cats or because of whatever. Excuse me. But it was in the closet. I had put it up against that divider thing, and when I had looked in there, in the closet, but I had not looked on that shelf, and it was like it was vertical up against the divider, and then there's some stuff, blankets and stuff there. So I really couldn't see it. And I remember my sister said, when you find it, you're going to kick yourself because it's going to be somewhere very obvious. And yes, it was. I didn't take it down because, because it's in a safe place. But now I know where it is. So there it is. So anyway, I solved that mystery while I was looking for my tax papers. And I do have all my tax information, so, But while I was looking for it, so my previous year's tax returns were not in the blue plastic envelope. So I have two little file boxes, and that I used to have when I lived in Little Rock, and when I first moved here, I had a little metal file cabinet, like 2-drawer file cabinet thing, and I had a bunch of random papers in there. I had some important stuff and some less than important stuff. And anyway, so I had, because I have less room now, I had gone through all my papers and thrown some things away and whatever. But so when I was looking for the tax papers, I decided I had to look in those two file boxes because somewhere, amongst everything I owned, were the tax papers, and I had put them somewhere. So I got the two file boxes down, and I went through them, and I found the tax papers that I needed. But so while I was going through it, I decided, okay, I'm going to put all, make sure that all the important things are in one, and the sentimental things are in another. But in doing that, I came across some stuff that I wanted to share with you, and one of them was years and years and years ago. I had only been in Little Rock a few years, so it was probably sometime in the early 90s, I guess. And the singles department at my church had a sort of a little getaway weekend, a sort of there. It was there at the church, but it was a weekend of activities, for the singles group. But anyway, one of the things we did was a personality test, and many people have taken this test, I guess. But I came out the dominant, concrete, sequential adult. Anyway, so there's various things, but there was a section there called "What Do They Do Best?" The key word is facts for the dominant sequential person. Me. Apply ideas in a practical way. Organize. Fine-tune ideas to make them more efficient, economical, etc. Produce concrete products from abstract ideas. Work well within time limits. What makes the most sense to them? Working systematically, step by step. Paying close attention to details. Having a schedule to follow. Using literal interpretations. Knowing what's expected of them. Establishing routines and ways of doing things. And it's kind of surprising to me how much this applies to being the way I do cross stitch. I think many people with many different personalities do cross stitch, of course, but it depends on it. But it depending on what kind of person you are, it dictates perhaps how you approach doing cross stitch. Do you have a lot of projects? Do you concentrate on one project? Do you is your rotation schedule, really complicated and really specific, and or you just, random, whatever? Do you have a big rotation schedule? Do you not have a rotation schedule? Some people have a lot of projects and have a very strict rotation schedule, and they have to put this many stitches in before I do this and this and that. And that may work for some people, but for me it's like it's a little too complicated. But other people have, just this stitch randomly on, I'm just gonna, stitch a little bit on this and stitch a little bit on that, and that to me is too random, perhaps. And so, I guess what has worked for me has been this, basically one at a time kind of person. Um, but because I've concentrated more on stitching lately, um, I'm more aware of all my whips than I was in the past. Excuse me, my shirt is messing up. I feel all goofy looking at myself. Um, but so in the past, I'd work on one project because I wanted to get it done for Christmas or for my mother's birthday or for whatever. And then when I didn't get it done in time for that deadline, because I worked full time and I had rehearsals and and all that, and so I would put it off, and I would eventually, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, I would get this thing done in time for whatever. But so anything that I was working on, especially if I was working on it for myself, would kind of languish and wait until the mood struck me or whatever. But now that I don't have I don't go to work every day, and I don't have rehearsal, and I basically spend a lot of my time, most of my time, stitching, and so I'm more aware of my unfinished whips, and so I'm trying to work through them and decide, maybe what I want to work on, what I don't want to work on. And this Stitch 9 challenge has actually been very good because it made me sort of pare down and choose the top 9 that I wanted to finish. And I last night when I was going through all my projects and everything, I was like, oh yeah, I want to work on that. Oh yeah, I want to work on that. Some others that were not part of my Stitch 9 thing. So I'll probably, maybe add them to the Stitch 9 challenge group now that I've got a few finishes. I don't know. But I have, a few more that I started that I want to finish. So, um, anyway, that's a long, convoluted way of saying that, I now that I have more whips, um, I still am working through them, um, basically one project at a time, or several days on one project, maybe a week, at a time, uh, to get through those 9. But I'm getting there. But it was funny to see to look back at this and see, uh, how much it fits the way I think about things. And it also has a list of what's hard for them: working in groups, discussion with no specific point, working in a disorganized environment, following incomplete or unclear directions, and that's another aspect of cross stitching that's important that I'll get to in a minute. Working with abstract ideas, demand to use your imagination, which I'm really not good at. Questions with no right or wrong answers. One of the things that, as a musician, that you deal with, both in school and, as an orchestral musician, sometimes you have a piece where the composer has written in music. They're like newer modern pieces, or pieces that were written differently. But anyway, it'll say something like, play for so many minutes notes within this range, because they're going for sort of an abstract sound, or different sound every time it gets played or whatever, and so you're basically improvising, and I was never really good at that. You give me specific notes to play, even if it's difficult, I can practice those specific notes and play those specific notes eventually. but when it says, to use your imagination, play something random, I'm not really good at that. Um, you know, I don't know that I could ever do like abstract painting, for instance, where they say, "Oh, just splash color on it." I can't. It's really difficult for me. But anyway, so yeah, questions with no right or wrong answers. Give me a form to fill out. I can fill out forms all day long. Name, address, phone number. When it says, well, how do you feel about that? Sometimes I feel like this. Sometimes I feel like that. It's really hard for me to do. So, what questions do they ask when learning? What facts do I need? How do I do it? What should it look like? When is it due? Very, very much me, and how I approach cross stitching, which is what we're here to talk about. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to do, and this is, let me check my notes again, make sure I'm not forgetting something. Yeah. Is a little segment called My Poetry Corner. This is not something, it's not a regular feature, and it was just something that I came across while I was cleaning out my those file boxes. But I had mentioned this poem back around the time, I guess around Christmas time, when I was trying to finish those little pillows that I was making. And I wanted to get them done early, but I was, it was a lot of stitching, and I was kind of ambitious about what I was doing. And so, but I talked about wanting to get my projects done early so that I could enjoy Christmas, and I ended up up against the wall, trying to get everything done, staying up all night long to get things done in time for Christmas. But so I had talked about this poem, that it's something that I always aspire to whenever especially at Christmas time. But I found the poem. I've never found what book I got this from, but it's by Grace Noll Crowell, and the poem, it's really short. It goes like this: I shall attend to my little errands of love early this year, so that the brief days before Christmas may be unhampered and clear of the fever of hurry. The breathless rushing that I have known in the past shall not possess me. I shall be calm in my soul and ready at last. I shall have leisure. I shall go out alone from my roof and my door. I shall not miss the silver silence of stars as I have before. And oh, perhaps, if I stand there very still and very long, I shall hear what the clamor of living has kept from me, the angel's song. So I want very badly to be calm in my soul and spirit, and ready at last, so that, again, so that I can enjoy Christmas and not be so, but it's, it's a two-edged sword. I want to do things for Christmas, but I want to enjoy the season, so I want to start early next year. But the same can be true for any holiday or whatever that you're preparing for, anything that you're preparing for, like Easter or a birthday or whatever, that, if you're up against the wall trying to get things ready for it, it's hard to enjoy it the day itself because you're so worried about preparing this and preparing that. So yeah. Anyway, I found the poem, and the other there was, I think, one other. Oh, this. Then from the sublime to the very funny, I came across another one I wanted to share with you. For those of you who have cats, this was a poem that it was featured on Star Trek The Next Generation, an episode of Star Trek Next Generation. For those unfamiliar with that show, there's an android named Data who has a cat. And he wrote, in one episode, he wrote a poem to his cat named Spot. And so the poem is Ode to Spot. And I used to have this memorizing, but it goes like this. Felis catus, is your taxonomic, excuse me, let's start again. Felis catus is your taxonomic nomenclature an endothermic quadruped carnivorous by nature? Your visual, olfactory, and auditory senses contribute to your hunting skills and natural defenses. I find myself intrigued by your subvocal oscillations, a singular development in cat communications that obviates your basic hedonistic predilection for a rhythmic stroking of your fur to demonstrate affection. A tail is quite essential for your acrobatic talents. You would not be so agile if you lacked its counterbalance. And when not being utilized to aid in locomotion, it often serves to illustrate the state of your emotion. O Spot, the complex levels of behavior you display connote a very well-developed cognitive array. And though you are not sentient, Spot, and do not comprehend, I nonetheless consider you a true and valued friend. So, that's Ode to Spot. I don't know who the writer of the episode was, so I don't know who came up with that poem, but it's very funny. And, you know, I'm not a poetic person, actually, as my personality test would attest. I'm not really a poetic person in terms of, poetry is very hard for me to write because it deals, I don't know, maybe it deals more with emotion. I don't know. I do have written, prose writing, and I do that every now and then when I feel so inclined. But I appreciate poems. I consider myself a literary person. I've read a lot in the past. I sort of go through phases. I read, I don't read, But I appreciate poetry. I just can't write it. I don't know if I'm too self-conscious or too factual. I don't know. but it's something that has gone on in my family. My great-grandmother, my mother's mother's mother, wrote poems, and my little sister, writes poems. As a matter of fact, I have some. I didn't want to share them because they're sort of I haven't talked to my sister about them. But she writes poetry every once in a while when she feels moved to do so. But yeah. So, but it's difficult for me, but I appreciate them. Like I said, especially those two poems that I came across. So one of the things that I did, that I thought about while I was going through all my fabric and all my patterns and stuff like that, was a giveaway. I've never done a giveaway because I just really, I don't know. I haven't felt. For one thing, I didn't know if I had anything I wanted to give away. I don't have like patterns that you would think of as popular. I don't have those to give away. I haven't gone through magazines and found, although I probably could, to find patterns that I might send to people. I haven't done that the way Bandy Stitch does. Leave that to her. That's her, her niche right now. But I do have a pattern that I thought long and hard because I really like this pattern, or I wouldn't have bought it in the first place. And I don't want to give it away only because I don't want to do it. But part of me is thinking, well, there might be somebody that really wants to do it badly enough that they're willing to do what you would have to do in order to do this project. And that's a very convoluted way of saying that I'm not that inclined. So it's very pretty. It's this little butterfly kit. Very pretty butterflies. Very pretty. Now this says Stitchery Beginner Kit. And it's a little kit. It comes with everything. It comes with Aida cloth and all the threads that you need to do it. And it actually has 2 needles. And the basic white Aida, 14 count white Aida, and 2 needles that are actually, they look like pretty petite needles. They're not huge. They're pretty, they're kind of small and fine. And then all the threads you need for the butterflies. The problem is the chart. And I don't mind showing it to you because I don't think anybody could do anything with this chart. It's very, very tiny. Very tiny. This little block, 10 squares. That's 10 squares right there. Very tiny. And basically impossible to see. It's a color chart, but the symbols are very tiny. This chart here, of course, is the what do you call it? Thread chart. And here's the symbols, but even here, the symbols are very tiny. I mean, they're just like, even with my glasses on, they're really, 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 really hard to see. They're very tiny. So you would have to take, and this is 147 by 144. So it's not a small, it's not a small chart. It's a pretty good sized chart when it's all finished. I think it's 147. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 147. But it's just so small. You would have to take a color copier and blow it up in order to be able to see the symbols that are on there. You can kind of guess, but like where they've done where they've drawn the back stitching on it, and there's a lot of back stitching because of the butterflies, it's really hard to, it obliterates the symbol basically, and I don't know that blowing it up would help. But if you're, like I said, if you're willing to do the work that it would take to do it, because it's very pretty and it's very colorful, and there's another thing that's difficult is that it uses beautiful colors. It's just beautiful. But this little card that the threads come in, the threads are numbered 1 through 28. They're not they don't have color names like dark blue, light blue, whatever. So you kind of have to, but they're organized. I think very, very clearly. So you would just have to, like, maybe you would want to draw in what symbol goes with what color. But like I said, it would take a lot of sort of preparation work, but most specifically blowing up that chart, enlarging the chart. And and like I said, I was very torn because I really kind of want to stitch this. And the reason this is like in a separate plastic bag, is that one thing, it came in a kind of small, narrow plastic bag. But also, I opened it wrong. I chopped the end off without realizing there was a little, fold over sticky flap on one end. I cut off the other end of it, so I just decided to put it in this other bag. But anyway, so if you want to stitch the butterflies, you could leave me a comment that says, I want to stitch the butterflies. In the past, I haven't, this is my first giveaway, like I said, so I'm willing to send it to anybody, anywhere. I don't know what the postage to Europe would be, or to whatever part of the world would be, but I'm willing to pay that postage to send it. If you're willing to take it, I'm willing to send it. So what other people have said, don't use the word giveaway, but just say, I would like to stitch the butterflies or whatever, and something along those lines, and I'd be willing to send it to you. And I probably have a few other charts that, like I said, I'm not interested in, but other people might be interested in. But I'll have to go through those and see what they are. But yeah, so the butterflies. I would like to stitch the butterflies, if you'd like to do that. And so I think that is everything on my list. Let me check. Oh, one other thing. When I was looking at poems, one thing I was trying to remember an old chart that I looked at. This is probably in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was a long time ago. But it was a sampler reproduction kit. A chart. This was back in the days when Hobby Lobby still carried a lot more, a lot more cross-stitch stuff than they do now. You could, they had lots and lots and lots and lots of cross-stitch charts. And so, but they had some that were old reproductions of old samplers. And this one I didn't buy. I looked at it and looked at it. I kept going back and looking at it, so much so that I actually memorized the little poem thing that the girl had written, and it was actually the first few lines of a hymn that was popular, an old hymn. And I don't remember the girl's name, and I don't remember the name of the sampler, and I don't remember anything about it. I just had memorized and written down this the verse that was in there. I choose the path of heavenly truth and glory in my choice. Not all the riches of the earth could make me so rejoice. And if I don't really have a unicorn pattern, except perhaps that one. If anything was ever a unicorn idea, a pattern, whatever, it would be whatever old sampler reproduction pattern had that verse in it. And like I said, I don't know the name of the person, the girl, who did it originally, and I don't know the name of the designer, and I don't know anything about it. I just know that little poem, that little verse that was in the sampler. Anyway, so if anybody has any idea what that's from, I'd love to know. I'd love to find that chart and track it down. Anyway, so I think that is everything, finally. I'm almost an hour in. This is a longer video than I've done recently. But anyway, so, again, I am Elizabeth Martinez, Fantastitches, and this is my update number 49, and I think that's it. Okay, Bye.